Hey, this is Matt once again. What about the end of the video? This is another paid request, this time for Thompson. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, PayPal is usually the best bet. Or you can join my Patreon. I do have a Cash App. People have asked me about that. If you want to know, just feel free to ask. But it could be for any topic, reaction, commentary, review, re-review, what have you. Feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or the links down below like I just said. If not, no worries. If so, thank you. I'll get to them as soon as I can. Really, truly appreciate it. But yeah, Darkness of Man by Thompson. What's funny about this film is when I've done streams, once in a while someone comes in and goes, man, that film sucked. It's the new Jean-Claude Van Damme film, came out this year, 2024. And it's not that good of a film. Because here's the thing, I like Van Damme. I grew up with the guy's movies. Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Hard Target, Time Cop. I even like Maximum Risk. Now, a lot of people like that film, but I like that movie. Even Double Team and Knockoff. They're weird, they're quirky, they're offbeat. I can see why people don't like them, but I can enjoy them because of just how weird they are, and it's kind of fun for me to watch those movies because of that. Even some of his direct-to-video stuff. I liked Weight of Death, I liked The Order, I liked The Shepherd Border Patrol, Six Bullets. JCVD was really good. But the past 10 years have not been good for Van Damme. As a fan, not just because he's gotten older, he's gotten much more slower, he cannot do the kits like he used to because of surgeries and all sorts of stuff. His body's broken down. I do think drug usage was a part of that, the acceleration of that, but also just, whether it be injuries or just your body just breaks down from as time goes on. And, Pound of Flesh he did, I thought that was really lame. I mean, that had a scene where you're in a car, and the screen projection to make it seem like you're on the road looked worse than stuff I would see in 1960. If we watch Psycho from 1960, that screen projection with Jen and Lee on the road looked better than in Pound of Flesh, and that's a 2015 film. I mean, Blackwater with Dolph Lundgren was really boring. It's in a submarine. Those two are barely on screen together until the third act. Even they don't really have not a whole lot of character dialogue interaction, and the action is very blasé. I remember them not being a lot of fights, just really boring shootouts in this very tin can sub. Just a very boring film. Kill 'Em All. Cool title, boring as shit movie. Which apparently, some reason, that's getting a sequel. I don't know why. Of all the films, that one? The Kickboxer movies where he was a teacher, I thought they were really lame and forgettable. The Last Mercenary was pretty embarrassing. Just lame comedy. At times he wasn't the focus. This other guy who I didn't give a shit, he was the focus. You tell sometimes there were stand-ins for the fight scenes for Van Damme. Not all of them, but sometimes. Now, I know I'm 3 minutes in, I haven't gotten to this. With what people have said about the film, I don't think this film is as bad as some of them make it out to be, in terms of, I would rather watch this than The Last Mercenary. I would rather watch this than Blackwater. I would rather watch this than Pound of Flesh. So I would say technically I think this is better than the stuff he's done in the past, sadly, 10 years. But that's still sad that this still isn't that good. It's directed by James Cullen Bresek, who did Beyond the Law with Steven Seagal and DMX. The last film DMX was a part of before he passed away. The last film so far that Steven Seagal has done. So if he's the reason why Seagal retired, I need to buy you some beer or whatever you drink, man. Now, the film itself, the story, before I get to what I like and don't like about it, Van Damme, he worked for this organization. This woman was her informant. I think it was CIA. He was with the CIA. She was an informant of this drug kingpin. She got killed. Before she did, she mentioned to Van Damme, please protect my son. It's years later. Yes, he's very mopey. He's very out of it. He's very depressed. Like a lot of Van Damme films recently. Which does get tiring to hear and see that, because I miss the old Van Damme of, like, even Bloodsport and Kickboxer, he had a bit more just emotion, like, hey, how's it going type of thing. Even when he's being serious, it didn't feel like mopey. But at the same time, I do think Van Damme does a good job in here. I do. I think he does what he can. Except his narration. They stupidly put in this narration that's god-awful, that's very tiresome and moody, but not in the good way, where it's just so glum and depressing of a narration. And it feels like the Blade Runner narration, where it's not needed. I don't like it. It got more annoying as it went on, with dialogue that just felt very, very pedantic and pretentious. And also explain stuff we already know, or we don't need to know. I wish I would see a version of this film without the narration. I actually think that would be a lot better. And when I say the film, but I mean, the rest of the plot is, it's years later, he's watching out for this kid, who I thought wasn't that good of an actor. I actually kind of got annoyed by him. He has this fleeing kind of girlfriend. He lives in a motel room. His fleeing is actually played by Kristanna Loken from Terminator 3. I'm like, the TX? And this has like the weirdest cast and random cameos. Like literally, like you put a bunch of names from The Surreal Life in a hat, and you picked a bunch of names out and said, there's your cast. Because, okay, Van Damme stars in it, Kristanna Loken. His partner, he's in a couple scenes, is Sticky Fingers. Sticky Fingers. Sticky Fingers. I'm like, Sticky Fingers is in this? And he's not that good of an actor. I'm like, how the hell did Sticky Fingers get... it's been a while since I've seen Sticky Fingers. Well, in a movie, I'll put it that way, you know. It's too much information. But I'm like, what the hell are you doing in here? Yeah, I wanted to double check. Yeah, he was Blade on the TV show Blade. I wanted to make sure that was, if I wasn't smoked meth, and I'll be honest, I never watched that show. Actually, you know what? Did I ever watch that show? Did someone ever request that? If I did, I don't remember it. Maybe I should start smoking meth and I'll remember it. But yeah, there was a TV show of Blade, and he was Blade. Now I'm probably intrigued as how bad that show was with Sticky Fingers as Blade. But, yeah, he's in it. Shannon Doherty, may she rest in peace. Out of the blue, she's in it as Van Damme's waiting for the kid outside of school. She's another mom. She goes in and is like, oh, don't smoke. Oh, I'm sorry. She has a conversation. Oh, yeah, he's a good kid. And you never see her again. I'm like, why the hell is Shannon Doherty in here in this random one scene? Speaking of random, Eric Roberts is in the movie for one scene where he's ordering like hot dogs. Someone gets food, Eric Roberts is like, hey, let me have a hot dog, and you never see Eric Roberts again. He's in it for 10 seconds. I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Like, how? You have Eric Roberts and you don't use him except for a 10-second scene where he buys a hot dog. What? Also, another person? Van Damme is beaten up, knocked out, he's taken to the hospital, he wakes up, a doctor comes in. It's Cynthia Rothrock. And they're never in the same frame together. It's like Van Damme's on the bed. They cut to Cynthia Rothrock talking, and you need to stay in bed. You've been hurt pretty bad. Cut to Van Damme with Kristanna Loken. Then cut back to Cynthia Rothrock. I'm like, you got Cynthia Rothrock? And she doesn't throw a punch. She doesn't throw a kick. And she doesn't share a screen with Van Damme. Like, they're never in the same screen, the same frame. What the hell is going on here? That's why, at times, this film boggles my mind. And, like I said, while I do give credit to why did I say I like this more than The Last Mercenary or Pound of Flesh or We Die Young, I think Van Damme's acting is a bit better. Just some of his interactions with people. His interactions with Kristanna Loken. One person I forgot to mention, his interactions with him, what was his name? Remember Dizzy's the Kid with Bruce Willis? The kid in that, who's also in that awful Mike Myers The Cat in the Hat movie? Spencer Breslin. He's in this. I could recognize him. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that who it is? And I looked him up. It is. It's from Disney's The Kid. He plays like a neighbor of Van Damme, who's like a druggie, but also becomes an ally and helps Van Damme out. And he's actually in it a decent amount. And he was actually decent. I actually thought he was one of the better parts of the film, because I thought some of his dialogue was kind of funny, and him interacting with Van Damme, I thought was actually some of the better scenes. I kind of wish more of the movie was about those two and not this Asian kid that is very wooden, very, you know, come in, you know, that kind of very wooden acting. Like Spencer Breslin, I think, for the little part he had, actually did a pretty good job. Just like this, he was likable, he was kind of, like I said, funny. Like the way he's talking to Van Damme, oh, you want some stuff? You like. And also the look of the film. It does have a film noir look with some of the neon lighting. I don't think it's a bad looking movie. I actually think, like I said, they did a fairly good job with the cinematography and the lighting. Also, sometimes it did get a little bit violent. Like someone gets their fingers blown off. For the most part, when I saw gunshots, I saw squibs. So it's like these little things that, again, some of Van Damme's acting, some of the supporting cast like Spencer Breslin, even Kristanna Loken, she was at least very personable and playful with Van Damme. Anytime she pops in, oh hey, being the kind of girlfriend but kind of not. She's never whiny, she's never bitchy, she's never, what are you doing? She's always very jubilant and playful. It was kind of nice to see that side of Kristanna Loken, because I always think of her as the TX and wasn't like Blood Rain and just very serious. So her kind of having some fun, some joy. I didn't nice to see that side of her. So there's little bits here and there. But the problem is, number one, it has very little action. And the action it has is pretty uninspired. Also, it's an hour and 48 minutes. It feels long. There's at least 15 minutes you could cut out of it. And because of that, like the fight scenes, for the most part, when Van Damme does fight, it's just with fists. Very, 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 very rare. There's maybe one kick he does. It's more like a little kick, like no classic kicks, nothing like that. It's mostly with his fists. And I get Van Damme wants to be doing something a bit darker, a bit more serious. I did appreciate that. And like I said, the way the film is shot, and it became very boring for a good chunk of people, even for me, that's trying to give some merit to it. And again, the film noir narration was unneeded. It was honestly distracting a lot of the times. Again, the kid who plays Jaden, the kid who Van Damme has to watch, he's not a good actor. He's very wooden with his dialogue delivery. The villains, like, you know who the villain is? Well, maybe not. Like, the villains aren't anything to run home about. They're kind of forgettable. And I say these random cameos kind of. And Eric Roberts, it was a burrito. Sorry, it wasn't a hot dog. It was a burrito. I just popped in my head. He said, because I remember his line, I want a burrito. That's what it is. Sorry. Hot dog, burrito, what? It was so inconsequential. I didn't barely remember the damn scene. But he wanted burrito. That's what it is. So sorry. I got the info wrong. Hot dog, burrito, you know, they're not the same. I know. But spoilers to get into what goes on in the film. You have a bloody, wounded Van Damme, and then he tosses in flashbacks of what led him up to this. This Esther was an informant and a lover. She was killed. People shot her up with stuff, so it made it seem like it was a drug overdose, but it wasn't. During a shootout with him and his partner Sticky Fingers against some guys, he gets wounded. It's years later. There'll be scenes where he's in the shower, or there'll be scenes his hand is shaking, he kind of. I appreciate that. Unlike Steven Seagal, maybe that's what it is too. Unlike Steven Seagal and other action guys, he's willing to put himself a bit more out there. Where there are scenes that he does get beat up, which Seagal would never allow. There's scenes like his arm shaking. And he shows himself being vulnerable. You know, people like Seagal would never do that. So I guess I just appreciate what Van Damme's trying to do more. But he needs to deal with better directors. He needs to deal with. I know he helped work on the script. Maybe that wasn't the best case, but the other people didn't help either. And he needs better people around him, maybe. Or just sadly retire. Just sadly retire at this point. Which he said he was retiring, but then he changed his mind, so I don't know. Need the money. So like I says, years later, he lives in this skunk motel. This playful hookup, Cristiano Loken, he sees from time to time. He'll go see the kid, Jaden, not Smith, thankfully. He sees his grandpa named Kim, and grandpa's son, who I guess is like Jaden's uncle. He's one of our bad guys. And the leader of a gang, the Koreans that fight with the Russians. And Van Damme is trying to help these folks out, where he wants to protect this Jaden guy and protect the grandpa, because the grandpa seems like a nice guy. So at one point his shop gets screwed up by the Russians, so Van Damme goes after the Russians. Then he thinks the kid Jaden's been taken, so he goes after the Russians. At one point going after some of the Koreans as well. And like I said, it's very little action. Again, you get kind of these random scenes. The stuff with Spencer Breslin isn't random, because at first he's like, hey, you're too loud. You're my neighbor. You're too loud. And you're doing drugs. But later does go to see him to help him go to a drug connection to find the kid Jaden. But other people like Shannon Doherty, her seemed to be completely cut out. She never see her again. The concerned mother, like, hey, why are you smoking? And that leads to nothing. Again, Eric Roberts randomly going, I want a burrito, and then you never see him again. It just, you see him and now you're thinking for the next 2 minutes, are we ever going to see Eric Roberts again? Or Shannon Doherty? So it just becomes distracting. Just like, why? Why are they in? I mean, what? This might be. I guess this is the last film Shannon Doherty was in. If that's the case, because she passed away. So I don't know if she did other stuff and they're going to be released posthumously. Or as a friend of mine would say, posthumanly. But it just seemed random. Like I said, I like the neon visuals. The look. I keep going back to that because at least I thought it was a nice looking movie. At least to me. I know I'm pimping it up too much, but I've seen a lot of these direct-to-video films, streaming films, and believe me, a lot of them look a lot worse. And like I said, there's not much action for a long time. And when it happens, oh, there's these two Russians. Van Damme disarms one, holds a gun on the other, and has them leave. There's two in cop uniforms. He punches them. There's the Koreans using only fists, but he's getting beaten up, and he punches a couple of them. But it's also very shaky. So I think they're trying to hide how slow Van Damme is by doing all the shaky cam stuff and the way it's edited. And if that's the case, then that's another reason why Van Damme should just retire. Should just retire. If we gotta do stuff to hide how slow you are, it's best to hang it up then. You know, Sally. So he takes the guy's gun, but he gets beaten up by the Koreans, and then let's talk. They blame it on the Russians. They go, we'll let this guy walk, Van Damme walk. If he takes up some Russians along the way, even better. If they take him out, that's fine, he's out of our hair. See Spencer Breslin. Like I said, he had got some chuckles, like, you want a wine cooler? But yeah, I also was like, wow, I haven't seen him in so long. I remember liking Disney's The Kid. Well, that's the wrong way to put it with Disney nowadays. The movie with Bruce Willis called The Kid. I did like that. But, so it was nice to see him again. The only action scene they tried to do something unique is Spencer Breslin and the one kid, Jaden, they're in the van. Van Damme is outside of the van. The camera never leaves inside the van. And Van Damme's like fighting these two people while the camera keeps going around the van. It's an interesting idea. But like I said, it's still pretty forgettable. It's pretty uneventful and uninspired because while the idea is inspired, the choreography is just again very slow. Kind of punch thrown against the van. I don't know if this is true, but I swear there's a point where, because of the way you can hide the actors, that a Van Damme double comes in. It's a scene when they're in the front of the van, and Van Damme's character gets some weapon. And I'm like, his character's moving a lot faster than he was doing before. And maybe that was Van Damme, but again, he was just moving a bit quicker than usual in the rest of the movie. So I'm just saying, if you ever find out it was a double, I would not be surprised. And like the director, I will give credit, he is trying to have unique shots. Like there's a bit where Van Damme's knocked out and there's a POV of his eyes blinking. So like the camera would be like his eyes are opening, he got knocked down in front of his room, and then it'll be like blink, darkness. Well, you can't do it with this, but like measure the POV, and then blink, darkness, then open up again, then darkness, then open up again, and Kristana Loken and Spencer Breslin finds him. And are there bits where transitions where the camera's sliding from left to right? So, like, the camera's going this way, then we cut to a different scene. So, again, compared to, like, Pound of Flesh and those movies, it seems like there's a bit more in the direction of the film. But the story isn't there. The story was not that interesting. I don't give a shit about this kid. I don't care if he gets killed, if he lives, if he dies, if he founds Jesus or Korean Jesus, as they would say in 21 Jump Street. I don't care. I don't care what happens to this kid. I don't care what happens in the story. The action, there's little of it, and when it happens, it's very sluggish. At times, a little bit violent. Like Van Damme fights a guy and slashes him, and the guy looks down, and you see the belly's been open. You see a bit of intestines. So like I said, there's little moments I appreciate, but tighter pacing, take out the lame ass narration. Okay, you can't do fights like you used to, but take the page from Harrison Ford, from Air Force One, and even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where have the camera settled and really do like these haymakers, like do like a boxing, like boo, 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 boo. You know, you could do that, or like these haymakers and the way it's edited with again Air Force One and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull with Harrison Ford of older age. And the sound effects really pump up the sound effects of the fists and, you know, boom. They do that then. Not have to be like, okay, shaky and then it's like more edited it feels to hide stuff. I just, come on. I said spoilers. There's a bit where you kill some of the Russians. I think one of them is Zach Ward, who is the star of Postal. Shoots his fingers off, which is a nice effect. I think blows his head up. Granted, it was so dark, I couldn't see what the fuck happened. I knew something blew up. Could have been a damn watermelon that blew up. It could be, I don't know. His balls exploded. I don't know. But I knew a head blew up, but you couldn't really see much because there was... I know it's called Darkness of Man, but that was a bit too dark in terms of I can't see. Put a light on it. He finds out he's been screwed over. He goes to where the Koreans are at. There's the kid. There's a little shootout. Nothing much. Lasts like 10 seconds. And he's wounded, but he lives. You find out Grandpa Kim, he was part of it as well. He did some evidence for sticky fingers. They don't arrest the guy. Him and the kid, Jaden, they're going to go off and live somewhere else. And then you have this end credit, like during the credits, this bit with those two and Kristanna Loken having ice cream. Is this after the end scene? So Kristanna Loken says goodbye to Van Damme, and then they leave, and then they stop at a gas station, and they leave more into like the desert or whatever. Well, you don't go like Sarah Connor, the Terminator. Then during the credits, they're having ice cream. So, the three of them now. So, I don't know if it's supposed to take place after that ending, I guess, or before. I don't know. It, like, means nothing. But, yeah, it just comes off as very boring. At the end of the day, it's a boring movie. Uninspired little action. Hour and 40 minutes, it felt too long. Random cameos that felt more distracting. Like, why you have Eric Roberts, but you do nothing with them? Why you have Cynthia Rothrock, you don't even put her in the same frame as Van Damme? You know... Sticky Fingers is a horrible actor. The kid, Jaden, he was a terrible actor. The narration was not needed at all. There's a lot of bad things about it. Again, I like Spencer Breslin. I think Van Damme did what he could in his old age, and I think he's trying as an actor, and I appreciate that as a fan. I like the look of the film. I like some of the little violent moments, more violent than usual. Like, I didn't see a little bit of a guy's guts and a guy's fingers blown off, some blood squibs. But again, there's little action, so it's hard to appreciate that. But it just has a lot of issues. And it's not that good. Is it the worst film I've seen this year? No. I've seen Sasquatch Sunset. I've seen Madam Web. I've seen The American Society of Magical Negroes, which is a real film. I've seen, even films like Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, or another stuff I like less than this. But it's just another disappointment in the Van Damme category that just goes, dude, I like you, man. I'm a fan, but it's just like a 4.4 on IMDb. I didn't really see much of anybody liking the film. Just let it go, man. If you're a diehard fan, sure, give it a look. Again, I don't think it's as bad as some of his other ones. I don't think it's embarrassment. I don't think it's god-awful, but it's just another one that kind of does suck, sadly. I would never see this film again. I would never pick it up even if it was $5. So, again, it's not god-awful, but just... I think there's some potential, a better director, a better script, a lot of different decisions. Because I say the film looks good, but that could be more the cinematographer, not the director. So maybe the cinematographer deserves more praise on that. But I just... Maybe don't get the guy who directed a Steven Seagal film like Beyond the Law. Maybe that. I guess he's like, well, I use DMX in that. Let me use Sticky Fingers in this. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.